welcome back to It's Not Rocket Science, 5 questions over coffee. I have here in front of me my favourite mug. It's filled with coffee, and I'm really, really looking forward to the next 10, 15 minutes we spend with this man. Marc Singer is the men's coach. He was sentenced to life in prison for a crime he hadn't committed, but he had to endure deaths of his entire family whilst in custody. And now he is a really successful men's mindset coach who works with them to help discover their turning point and create a life that they would choose. Now, I think this is going to be a really fascinating few minutes. Marc, I really am looking forward to this. Welcome to It's Not Rocket Science, 5 questions over coffee.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Look, Marc, do you want to just start by describing those men that you're trying to reach and the sort of people they are, and then
that's fine. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I went through a traumatic set of experiences which then create the lives that they choose, and it was a bit of a journey. So as you just said, they're convicted of a crime that had to endure the trauma of all of that, whilst actually evacuating the family funerals and selling the family home and so on, whilst in prison, whilst not knowing if I was ever going to be actually released from prison. So, but I saw it as an opportunity to turn my life around. Eventually secured release. Now I'm a professional coach working with men to help them create the lives that they choose as well. So that's what I now do.
So tell me, how did you? What are they doing, and who are they trying to reach at the moment? And why is your approach different? What was it about your experience that helped you to see that as a positive and turn your life around?
Well, actually, when I was in prison, I hit rock bottom, and for a period of time saw myself as a victim, and then it was that realization that I never wanted to be, didn't want to see myself as a victim, and I had to choose to take responsibility for my thoughts, feelings, and actions in order to move myself forward. I never wanted to be a victim, so it was at that moment I decided enough's enough, and it was then that I decided to with that, and then instead of my actual situation where I was, the prison and so on, which I couldn't change, I could only change what I was doing and how I was working. So I focused more within, and long story that led me to a situation when I did actually secure release. I fell into coaching and it was only then that I discovered that I had the skills and attributes to become a great coach myself, and it was set me on the path of self-discovery. And I put into professional excellence in coaching, and I enrolled with them. And 2 years later, I qualified as a professional coach. And that's now what I do. I work with men particularly to help them overcome whatever's in their way. And the reason I work with men specifically now, in the day normal guys who are looking to have some sort of breakthrough in their lives and looking to move forward with their lives. There's a lot of stigma, and I work to break that down so that men can deal with whatever they're going through in a more, and not to put themselves forward to things like this because they have that belief or attitude that it's more effeminate, it's more for women, it's not necessarily for working class guys. That then holds them back from actually moving forward. So I do tend to work with a lot of guys who are normal everyday guys who look not so much in terms of like dealing with the emotional side, because that's what all of us do, but we deal with it in a different way. But it's more giving them a more common sense way of moving forward without all the fluffiness. And that gives them a common sense process, way of working forward, which helps them create whatever they want with their lives, and it's effective, and it helps them that they choose.
Mark, I love your message. I love what you're doing, and I'm just going to put a ticker across the bottom of the screen now, which is your website, which is Marc.
Okay.
That's Marc, Marc, singercoaching.co.uk. That's MARC singercoaching.co.uk. Marc, there's lots of great stuff on your website, and I know you're in the process at the moment of writing a book, which I hope is going to be a real bestseller. Tell us what's going to be in your book. What's the stories in that book that you're going to sort of
Right.
give, and help men to discover this path from what you're telling them.
Yeah. Well, the book is my journey. It's a story about only the tip of the iceberg when you look at the whole story, because there's a heck of a lot more to it. It was my journey and why I ended up in place, what that situation. So it really goes back to the beginning where I started, and I actually got involved in a gang. I was involved in drugs and things like that when I left school, football violence and things like that. So I created a whole set of antisocial beliefs and attitudes, which dogged me for many, many years after. And that led me into countless situations which were antisocial and, with the police and so on. But it was many years from all of that in my 30s that I actually got convicted of the thing that I went to prison for. And even though I hadn't done what they convicted me of, it was actually my own beliefs and attitudes that created that situation inadvertently. And I only realized that later on, because I hadn't dealt with the underlying stuff that dogged me for many, many years. On the surface, I hadn't. And it was, had I dealt with the beliefs and attitudes at an earlier stage, I wouldn't have been involved in the relation to begin with. And so I recognized that when I was in prison, and I started doing the work on the beliefs and attitudes whilst in there, that then helped me change my belief system so that it was more pro-social, more able to serve me moving forward. And a lot of us in life, we tend to develop beliefs and attitudes as we go through life, which then affect us in different ways as we move forward. And it could be something, for instance, I'm working with a guy at the moment who's a businessman who struggles doing live speaking events. Now, the reason why he does that is because something that affected him many, many years ago when he was a kid. And he hadn't dealt with those beliefs and attitudes, which are now holding him back from being at his most confident in front of people. So it's those sort of things that I work with to help them identify and remove or change. And so understanding how our mind works is imperatively important for us to be at our best. And it's the same as anything in life. If you want to be a footballer and you want to be the best, then guess what? You're going to work on different aspects of to become the best version of yourself. And if you're a businessman, it's the same thing. If you want to use your mindset to the best of its ability, you're going to have to learn how to do that. And many of us don't understand how our minds work fully, and don't understand how the beliefs and attitudes and things that we developed years before affect us in the current. And it's important that we do it to be at our best. So a lot of the stuff in the book is about that. It's about how my journey went from where I was to where I am now, and everything in between that. But it's also more about individual reading the book. So it's not about me. It's about the people, whoever. Everybody's going through some sort of transition, transformation in life. Doesn't matter who you are. And it's important that we understand how we can work our ways through things like that in a more positive and constructive way. And my book is about everybody. It's not just about me. It's about every male, whoever you are. Be able to take away from that book, create what you life, and that's the whole premise of the book. It's half life story, autobiography, half self-help book. So there's a bit
I love it. I absolutely love it. I really think that's a brilliant way of putting it. Listen, normally my fourth question when we get to this point of the interview is about what book or what program do you sort of did you discover which actually sort of helped you get forward? And you've sort of described a lot of that, but is there a specific instance of something you'd like to leave the audience with to say, look, this is what you've got to grasp now, this is what you've got to do, this is what I did to push me in the direction I'm taking now?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the one I ask is what are the likes of Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Cristiano Ronaldo, Bill Gates. What all of these people got in common? And the answer is they all have a coach. And I think there was a general misconception among many people that if you ask for help in any way in life, if you have a coach, if you have a mentor, it means you're weak in some way, that you're struggling in life. And so many people avoid reaching out and asking for help because they think it's a slight on their side. It means that they haven't got the ability to do it themselves and that they're struggling. And I have it defined, and it's a common misconception that a lot of people have, that you have to be mentally just challenged or depressed or something like that in order to reach out and get a coach. And it's really not the case. It really is for the people who want to be the best versions of themselves. And that's essentially the difference between something like therapy and coaching. Therapy is for people who want to delve into their think a certain way. Coaching's for people who want best versions of them. Simple as that. And so my advice would be to people who are looking to progress in their lives and become the best versions of themselves, to consider hiring a coach. And so in order to do that, there's no coincidence that people in all have coaching. And that's one of the things I would learn. I would say, again, yeah, I mean, I learned a philosophy when I changed my life. And that, if you are asking me about a book called Energy Leadership by Bruce Schneider, and he's the founder. And so I would suggest anybody who's interested in finding out more about that, check that book out.
Lovely. Mark, listen, I've spent the last 10, 15 minutes asking you a bunch of questions, and there must be a question that you're currently thinking, well, why hasn't he asked me about whatever? So my get out of jail free card at the moment is to turn around. Get out of jail free card. What a wonderful thing you might have for a few years in your life. Anyway, my question that I'm going to put to you now is, what's the question that you would have liked me to have asked that I haven't done yet? And obviously, I'm going to make you do the work again. I'm going to ask you to answer the question that you ask yourself. So what is the question you would particularly like me to have asked you?
Well, again, I mean, it's really what is it that people, why is it that people, men specifically, avoid moving forward with their lives? I mean, this is the thing that, if you look at the general demographic of men, we're the group that struggles the most in terms of everything that we do. Suicide rates are the highest with men. General issues such as with men is the highest in society. And that's a lot to do with a reluctance for men to sort of move forward. So the question I would say you'd ask is, why is that? Why do men struggle to sort of move forward with their lives and, really take control of the things that matter most, which is your mindset and the mindset creates everything we do in life. It creates our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And if we're not in control of that, then our actions are not going to be conducive to the life that we're living. And it's very important that we do that, because most are settling in life for things that we don't truly want. And if we really want to be at our best, we have to be in control. And the question I would ask is, why is it that men don't? Possibly a common misconception among general men that it's for effeminate, or all of these different labels that people put things on, and none of it is true. It's inaccurate completely. And I think mainly a lot of guys will avoid doing these sort of things or investing in a coach because they feel that the old-fashioned belief is just get on with it. The mentality is just get on with it, stiff upper lip. And I had that for a long time when I was in prison. And yes, it has a place in some ways in society to do that. But the reality is, like I said, it's a misconception, because people assume that by getting on with things, you're tough in some way. But it's actually the opposite. A real strong guy in life is the man who asks for help. And that doesn't mean mentally, like like I just explained, in a mentally ill way, or you're struggling with depression. It's a way in which we all get forward in life. The most successful people in life always do. So I would say the answer to that question is to not judge things before you move forward. Always have an open mind when you go in society and life generally. have very closed minds. Even if we tell ourselves we've got an open mind, we will actually judge pretty much everything from our past beliefs and perspectives. And that then stops us seeing things with any sort of clarity and objectivity. And it's very important that most of us see things with that, because if you don't, you won't learn, you won't grow. And like me, I would have been stuck in prison. Still, I wouldn't be here talking to you today if I had that sort of mindset, because had I believed what everybody was telling me at that time, which was, you're never getting out of prison, there's no point, because I had no release date, it was a license. If I believed that, I wouldn't have got out. I chose not to believe that. I created my reality by my actions day in, day out, by focusing on myself and being the best version I could possibly be, learning, exercising, doing all the things I knew that would help me move forward. So it doesn't matter what your circumstances in life. It doesn't matter if we've got a cost of living crisis. It doesn't matter if there's a war in Ukraine. It doesn't matter if there's COVID going on. It doesn't matter if we're struggling through. We can all be successful with the right mental approach. And that's very, very, very important for any of us, especially right now with what's going on around us. And, the most successful people are the ones who walk through any sort of recession and things like that and grow from it, rather than allowing it to force them to, crumble, basically.
I absolutely love what you're talking about. I think it's so, so brilliant. I mean, really, really appreciate the message you're putting across. And I think you're right. Men are taught from a very early age, it's the big boys don't cry, suck it up, get on with it. And, we suffer for years because of it. I now find most of my ideas from turning to people around me and going, what do you think? And, as business people, as leaders of businesses, the one thing that we can't afford to do is to just close down outside help and close down coaching and close down mentoring. We need those people to help drive us on and drive our businesses on to be the best. So I think what you're doing is brilliant. I love the story. Absolutely. Looking forward to the book. I know it's not out yet. I know it's coming soon. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on a copy of that book and reading it. And I should be sort of promoting it through things like this podcast and things like that. So really appreciate you coming on and spending a few minutes with us today.
Thank you.
I just think that the message is great. I really absolutely love it. Listen, I'm just gonna finish now by doing the usual. If you have got any value out of this, and I hope you have, why not subscribe to the newsletter list, and then you can get an email every Monday which tells you what speakers we've got coming up in this week's podcast recording. And you can get on and make sure that you follow people like Marc through his website. He's got lots of links on there, lots of information. So come onto our website, onto our newsletter, which is tca.fyi. That's tca.fyi/subscribe. That gets you onto the newsletter mailing list. You'll get to hear about some great speakers like people like Marc coming on. Marc, thank you so much for coming on and spending a few minutes with us. I really do appreciate you spending a few minutes and giving us such huge value of the way that you have approached what would have crushed me, absolutely would have crushed me, but you have approached it so positively and given so much value back. And I thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much.